Eternal glory to our beloved and respected Premier Zhou Enlai was made 1 year ago to honor the memory of the Chinese people's beloved and respected Premier Zhou Enlai. It can now be shown at long last only because of the historic victory won by the Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party headed by Chairman Hua Guofeng over the anti-party Gang of Four. The Gang of Four, Wang Hongwen, Zhang Chunqiao, Jiang Qing, and Yao Wenyuan, were a scourge to the Chinese nation. They rabidly hated and opposed our great leader and teacher, Chairman Mao. They saw in Premier Zhou Enlai, who resolutely and faithfully carried out Chairman Mao's proletarian revolutionary line, a major stumbling block to their conspiracy to usurp party and state power. So they attacked and persecuted him persistently and ruthlessly. On January 8, 1976, Premier Zhou passed away. Immense sorrow gripped the people of China's many nationalities. In 1,000 ways, they mourned and commemorated him. This enraged and terrified the Gang of Four, and they did their best to restrict, obstruct, and wreck the people's commemoration. They spared no effort to prevent the making of a documentary film showing the nationwide mourning for the Premier. All China was waiting to see such a film as promptly as possible. The people, in heartfelt respect and sorrow, longed to look once more on the beloved face of their Premier. But the Gang of Four were enemies of the people. To serve their ulterior motive of seizing power, they instructed the filmmakers to go slow. Previewing the film, their hirelings viciously insisted on cutting out not only all scenes showing the people's heart-rending grief, but also the rare and precious sequences recording Premier Zhou's great deeds in the revolution. They even tried to eliminate all tears from the film. Finally, instead of sending it to the party's Central Committee for approval, they suppressed it altogether. Today, the Gang of Four has been smashed. Our party, the proletariat, and the people have triumphed. We are proud to present this film to the party, the People's Liberation Army, and the people of all nationalities throughout the country, as the nation commemorates the first anniversary of the passing of our beloved and respected Premier. We will turn grief into strength. Wisely led by the party's Central Committee, headed by Chairman Hua Guofeng, the Chinese people, who are determined to follow the example set by Premier Zhou, will most certainly carry out the behests of the great leader and teacher, Chairman Mao, and carry through to the end the revolutionary cause pioneered by the older generation of China's proletarian revolutionaries. At 9:57 a.m. on January 8, 1976, the heart of the great proletarian revolutionary and outstanding communist fighter, Comrade Zhou Enlai, ceased to beat. In deepest sorrow, the party's Central Committee, the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, and the State Council issued a joint obituary notice. Anguish over the irreparable loss of our beloved Premier engulfed the whole party, the whole army, and the people of all nationalities throughout the country. Eternal glory to our beloved and respected Premier Zhou Enlai. Throughout our vast land, The mountains bow in grief. The seas heave in mourning. And the bereaved Chinese people are plunged into an agony of grief. Our respected Premier has left us forever. In him, the Chinese proletariat has lost a great fighter, and the Chinese people a fine Premier whom they love and revere. Comrade Zhou Enlai was loyal to the party and the people. He gave his all with no thought of self to carrying out Chairman Mao's proletarian revolutionary line and to winning victory for the Chinese people's liberation and the cause of communism. Beloved Premier Zhou, your immortal services to the people and the revolution will remain forever engraved on hundreds of millions of hearts. Comrade Deng Xiaoping, Premier Zhou Enlai's life companion and staunch comrade in arms. With profound reverence and grief, leading members of the party and state pay their last respects. Zhu De. Ye Jianying. Song Qing-ling. Li Xianyan, Chen Xilian, Ji Denghui. Wang Dongxing, Wu De, Ni Zhifu. Hua Guofeng. Wang Zhen. Chen Yonggui. Wu Guishan. Su Zhenhua. Guo Moruo. Xu Xiangxian. Nie Rongzhen. Chen Yun. Tan Zhenlin. Li Jingquan. Zhang Dingcheng. Cai Chang. Wu Lanfu. Ngapo Ngawang Jigme. Zhou Jianren. Xu Deheng. Hu Juewen. Li Suwen. Yao Lenwei Sun Jian. Yu Qiuli. Wu Mu, Vice Chairman of the National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, Shen Yanbing, and Pebala Galie Namje. President of the Supreme People's Court, Jiang Hua. Members and alternate members of the Party Central Committee and standing committee members of the National People's Congress and the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference's National Committee, then in Peking, and responsible cadres of the party, government, and People's Liberation Army. Tan Xilong and other representatives of the party and revolutionary committees of Zhejiang province. Peng Chung and other representatives of the party and revolutionary committees of Jiangsu province, who came to Peking to pay their last respects. Doctors and nurses who had attended the premier during his illness. The premier loved the people. The people loved the premier. Together, premier and people share their joys and hardships, and their hearts beat as one. At this time of heartbreak, it is the fervent wish of everyone, worker, peasant, soldier, and of China's people of all nationalities and walks of life, to see their premier just once more, to bid him farewell. Beloved Premier Zhou, you were infinitely loyal to Chairman Mao. You served the people, heart and soul, till your last breath. To make China strong and prosperous, and bring happiness and a bright future to the people of the whole world, you fought throughout your life, never sparing yourself or hesitating to face mortal danger. You were firm in your political stand and clear-cut in what you loved and hated. You were defiant before the enemies and humble before the people. Class enemies feared you, hated you, and did everything to destroy you. This only makes us love and respect you the more. Dear Premier Zhou, the entire nation is mourning for you, yearning for you, thinking of you. The eyes of 800 million people long to see you again. 800 million hearts are heavy with pain. Millions sob on reading the obituary. Our hearts are overflowing. No words can express our pain. from the capital to the far borders, north, south, east, and west, in factories, mines, villages, army barracks, there is hardly a tearless eye. Beloved Premier, China's 800 million people stand vigil by your side. Beloved Premier, you have added luster to the motherland's mountains and rivers, and filled China's sons and daughters with pride. Your achievements are immortal, and your illustrious name will forever grace our history. Your 78 years were years of storm and stress, devoted to the noble cause of communism. You were a great Marxist-Leninist, with unbounded loyalty to Chairman Mao. You were his close and long-tested comrade-in-arms. The whole party, the whole army, and the people of all nationalities throughout China hold you in the highest esteem and deepest affection. Learning that Comrade Zhou Enlai's body would be cremated on the 11th of January, the people of the capital could not restrain their bitter grief. They left their homes and gathered on the sidewalks of the Chang'an Boulevard, along which the cortege would pass. Hour after hour, people stood waiting in the open, solemn, grief-stricken, oblivious of cold, hunger, and thirst. From morning to dusk, they waited patiently, quietly. tears blur our eyes. The hearse cuts off our sight. How we long to see you again. Oh, that it were possible, just once more. Can't you stop for a moment, dear Premier? This is Tiananmen. Don't you remember the many festive occasions we celebrated here together? Your ringing laughter is still in our ears. Your warm gaze rests on our tears. Beloved Premier Zhou, how we miss you. How we need you. A million hearts follow that slow-moving hearse in the pale twilight. Our hearts break, our tears cascade. The red flag waves at half-mast. Before the Xinhua men, tears glisten. Here, dear Premier, you attended to a myriad matters of state. When tonight will you return to it again? Why, oh, why must you leave us so soon? So many things await your counsel. So many deeds cry out to be done. Oh, beloved Premier, do not leave us in such haste. Silent is the long night. Sadness shrouds earth and sky. How we long to see the Premier return, but all we see is the departing hearse. Beloved Premier, your lifelong achievements will forever shed glory on the land that gave you birth. Wherever workers labor, peasants till the soil, soldiers stand guard, there you will be at their side. You will live forever among the people. That same night, Comrade Zhou Enlai's ashes were brought to the working people's palace of culture. Comrade Zhou Enlai unreservedly gave his all to the party and put himself completely at its disposal. With heavy hearts, the comrades of the party branch to which he belonged placed the casket in the mourning hall. Grief beyond words. Portraits of Premier Zhou Enlai will long be cherished. These flowers, made by children who watered them with their tears, are for the Premier. They will turn into sparks of revolution, setting their young hearts aflame and bringing them ever closer to the Premier. A solemn atmosphere prevails at the Working People's Palace of Culture. From January 12th to the 14th, people come here to pay tribute to the memory of Comrade Zhou Enlai, great proletarian revolutionary of the Chinese people and outstanding communist fighter. A portrait of Comrade Zhou Enlai hangs in the hall. Below it, the casket containing his ashes, draped with a party flag. Wreaths presented by the great leader and teacher, Chairman Mao Zedong, the Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party, and other party and state leaders. The wreath from Comrade Deng Xiaoping, member of the Party Central Committee, wife and staunch comrade of the Premier. Wreaths from the National People's Congress Standing Committee, the State Council, the Military Commission under the Party Central Committee, the National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, departments under the Party Central Committee and the State Council, people's organizations, general departments of the People's Liberation Army, the Science and Technology Commission for National Defense, various services and arms, military academies, regional military commands, the Party and Revolutionary Committees of 29 provinces, municipalities and autonomous regions, compatriots from Taiwan Province, the Shanghai Trade Union Council, the Party and Revolutionary Committees of Guangzhou, Nanchang, Wuhan, Nanking, Chongqing, Xi'an, and Yan'an, wreaths from overseas Chinese and compatriots in Hong Kong and Macau. The wreath from Comrade Kim Il-sung, brought to Peking by special envoy. The wreath from Comrade Enver Hoxha. The wreath from Comrade Nicolae Ceausescu. Wreaths from the Central Committee of the Albanian Party of Labour, the Presidium of the People's Assembly and the Council of Ministers of the People's Republic of Albania, the Central Committee of the Romanian Communist Party, the State Council and the Government of the Socialist Republic of Romania, the Central Committees of the Communist Parties of Burma, Thailand and Malaya, the delegation of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Indonesia, and other Marxist-Leninist parties and organizations. Wreaths from state leaders, governments and people of many countries. Wreaths from the diplomatic corps, ambassadors and embassies of various countries in China, and from foreign guests, experts, students and trainees in Peking. The whole nation mourns for the Premier. People in Peking pour into the Palace of Culture to pay their last respects. esteemed and beloved Premier, you wholeheartedly served the people of all China and the entire world. You were diligent and conscientious, hard-working and uncomplaining. You cared for others without any thought of self. You set an example for all to follow. You were unswerving in your devotion to Chairman Mao and to the party's cause. You are near and dear to all the nationalities in China. You always inspired us with Chairman Mao's teachings, encouraging us to unite in struggle for greater victories. Now you are parting with us forever. How can we bear the thought of never seeing you again? More than 2,000 foreign friends in Peking joined the long procession to the mourning hall. Among them, Takin Ba Tiantin, chairman of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Burma; Yusuf Ajitorov, head of the delegation of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Indonesia and member of its political bureau; the Posts and Telecommunications delegation of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea; the Health delegation of Ethiopia; Chuji Kuno, member of the House of Representatives of Japan and former Minister of Posts and Telecommunications; the delegation of the Japan-China Special Committee of the Japanese Socialist Party; American friends Frank and Ruth Coe Sol Adler, British friend Pat Davis, Jawoto Secretary General of the Secretariat of the Afro-Asian Journalists Association. foreign diplomatic envoys and officials of Afghanistan, Albania, Algeria, Argentina, Rwanda, Cameroon, the Yemen Arab Republic, Australia, Austria, Benin, Belgium, Brazil, Bulgaria, Burundi, Burma, Democratic Kampuchea, Canada, Chad, Sri Lanka, Ghana, Chile, Congo, Cuba, Czechoslovakia, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, the Democratic Republic of Vietnam and the Republic of South Vietnam, the People's Democratic Republic of Yemen, Denmark, Egypt, Ethiopia, Lebanon, the Federal Republic of Germany, Finland, France, Gabon, Mongolia, the German Democratic Republic, Greece, Guinea, Guyana, Hungary, India, Iran, Iraq, Italy, Japan, Kuwait, the Netherlands, Laos, Madagascar, Malaysia, Mali, Mauritania, Mauritius, Mexico, Morocco, New Zealand, Norway, Nepal, Niger, Nigeria, Pakistan, the Philippines, Peru, Poland, Romania, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Tunisia, Somalia, Spain, the Sudan, Sweden, Switzerland, Syria, Tanzania, Thailand, Togo, Turkey, Uganda, USSR, United Kingdom, Upper Volta, Yugoslavia, Venezuela, Zaire, Zambia, representatives of the mission of the Palestine Liberation Organization in Peking and the Liaison Office of the United States of America in China. Foreign experts, students, and trainees in Peking, mourning Premier Zhou Enlai with respect and deep emotion. respected and beloved Premier Zhou, you were the trusted friend of the people of the world. You were near and dear to all revolutionary people. Your noble revolutionary spirit and qualities will always be a source of inspiration in the fight for the emancipation of all mankind. From morning till night, the mourners came in an endless stream, their hearts heavy with grief. They pledged, with invincible Marxism-Leninism Mao Zedong thought and the great, glorious and correct Chinese Communist Party to guide us, we, the 800 million people of China, will sweep away all obstacles that stand in the way of our advance towards a more beautiful tomorrow. Beloved Premier, rest in peace. At the close of the 3-day mourning, Comrade Deng Xiaoping carried the casket containing Comrade Zhou Enlai's ashes to the Great Hall of the People. It was a people's mourning for their premier. Across the vast land of 9,600,000 square kilometers, people of all nationalities and all strata of society in China were plunged into deepest grief at his passing. Each in his own way expressed the sorrow in his heart. Particularly intense was the grief of the people in the places where Premier Zhou had lived and fought. The number 6 middle school of Shenyang, northeastern China. Here, the Premier spent his early youth. With deep emotion, the teachers and students firmly resolved to emulate his outstanding revolutionary qualities of patriotism and love for the people. The former Nankai Middle School in Tenzin. Here, our beloved Premier began his revolutionary activities against imperialism and feudalism. Newspapers and magazines he then founded, and articles he wrote, are now invaluable material for education in the revolutionary heritage. A letter Premier Zhou wrote to the students of his old school on May 4th, 1957. Guangzhou. Here, Premier Zhou was active during the First Revolutionary Civil War, 1924 to 1927. People visit the former Huangpo Military Academy to pay homage to him. Their admiration and esteem for the Premier are heightened by the visit. Shanghai. This is a veteran of the city's Workers' Armed Uprising of 1927, led by Comrade Zhou Enlai. He vividly recalls the historic scenes of the time. Nanchang. People come to the Martyrs Memorial Hall and the Museum of the Nanchang Uprising of August 1st, 1927, to recall Comrade Zhou Enlai's revolutionary exploits. Illuminated by the thought of Mao Zedong and guided by Chairman Mao's revolutionary line, Comrade Zhou Enlai led the Nanchang Uprising and fired the first shots against the reactionaries. His contribution to the birth of the great People's Army will never be forgotten. Jiang Qing. People filed to the Hongyan Revolutionary Museum and Zhengjiayan Museum. Here, comrades Zhou Enlai and Deng Xiaoping carried on bitter and complicated revolutionary struggles in the 30s and 40s. The fearless proletarian revolutionary spirit of our predecessors encourages us to brave the storms of struggle in the days ahead. On. People here will always cherish the memory of Comrade Zhou Enlai, who accompanied Chairman Mao to Yan'an and helped lead the great revolutionary struggles of those eventful years. Xi'an, this ancient city too is shrouded in grief. Visitors to the former office of the 8th Route Army view with great feeling the years when Premier Zhou carried on revolutionary struggle in this city. Nanking. People come to the Meiyan Xinsun, where the delegation of the Chinese Communist Party, led by our beloved Premier Zhou and Comrade Deng Xiaoping, lived and worked. In this center of the reactionary Kuomintang regime, they waged a tit-for-tat struggle with great courage and resourcefulness against the U.S. Jiang reactionaries. visitors are told of the great fight they waged here. It was a people's mourning for their premier. For many days on end, grieving crowds thronged the vast Tiananmen Square to lay wreaths at the foot of the monument to the people's heroes. Old and young, parents with their children, hearts were heavy and tears streamed. Myriad wreaths made with loving care express the feelings, tributes, determination, and pledges of millions of people. Tears fall like rain on the square. White flowers made by the people cover the pines and cypresses like snow. Dear Premier, your monument is built in our hearts. See the forests of our clenched fists Hear the thunder of our pledges. Beloved Premier, rest at ease, for you have successors to the revolutionary cause. As the tide of revolution rolls on, the crest of each wave rises higher than the last. No force can hold it back. January 15, 1976. Throughout the country, flags fly at half-mast. Leaders of the party and state and representatives from all circles in Peking hold a solemn memorial meeting in the Great Hall of the People to mourn in deep grief the death of Comrade Zhou Enlai, fine Chinese Communist Party member, great proletarian revolutionary, outstanding communist fighter, and eminent, long-tested party and state leader of the Chinese people. The eulogy of the party's Central Committee says, Comrade Zhou Enlai was loyal to the party and the people. Fighting heroically and working with utter devotion, he selflessly dedicated all his energies throughout his life to the implementation of Chairman Mao's proletarian revolutionary line and to the victory of the liberation of the Chinese people and the cause of communism. Under the leadership of Chairman Mao, Comrade Zhou Enlai made indelible contributions and performed immortal services in the building and development of the Marxist Communist Party of China, in the building and development of our invincible People's Army, in bringing the new democratic revolution to victory, and in the founding of the socialist New China. In the consolidation of the great unity of the people of all nationalities, led by the working class and based on the worker-peasant alliance, and in the development of the revolutionary United Front. In the struggle for the victory of the socialist revolution and construction, and the victory of the great proletarian cultural revolution, and the movement to criticize Lin Biao and Confucius, and in the consolidation of the proletarian dictatorship in our country. The whole party, the whole army, and the people of the whole country love him and respect him from the bottom of their hearts. Internationally, Comrade Zhou Enlai resolutely implemented Chairman Mao's revolutionary line in foreign affairs and upheld proletarian internationalism. He made outstanding and indelible contributions in strengthening the unity of our party with Marxist-Leninist parties and organizations in other countries, in combating modern revisionism and in promoting the development of the international communist movement, in strengthening the unity of our people with the people of other countries, especially those of the Third World, in striving to establish and develop relations with all other countries on the basis of the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, in uniting with all forces in the world that can be united with, and in carrying out the struggle against imperialism and social imperialism. He won the respect and admiration of the people of the world. Comrade Zhou Enlai's life was one of glorious struggle for the cause of communism and one of continuing the revolution with perseverance. He is an example that the whole party, the whole army, and the people of the whole country should learn from. In mourning Comrade Zhou Enlai, we should learn from his boundless loyalty to Marxism, Leninism, Mao Zedong thought. He loved and revered our great leader Chairman Mao wholeheartedly, safeguarded Chairman Mao's proletarian revolutionary line resolutely, persevered in continuing the revolution under the dictatorship of the proletariat, and in combating and preventing revisionism, and fought all his life for the realization of the great ideal of communism. We should learn from his noble quality of serving the people wholeheartedly. Under the leadership of Chairman Mao and the Party Central Committee, Comrade Zhou Enlai shouldered the arduous day-to-day tasks of the party and the state. He was always diligent and conscientious, hard-working and uncomplaining, indefatigable and selfless in working for the interests of the people of China and the world. We should learn from his staunchness in fighting the enemy. No matter how ruthless the white terror, how fierce the armed struggle, and how sharp the battle in face-to-face negotiations with the enemy, he was daring, oblivious to personal danger, brilliant and resourceful, brave, steadfast, calm, and fully confident of victory. We should learn from his strong proletarian party spirit. He was open and above board, paid attention to the interests of the whole, observed party discipline, was strict in making self-analyses of himself, and good at uniting the mass of cadres, and upheld the unity and solidarity of the party. He maintained broad and close ties with the masses, and showed boundless warm-heartedness toward all comrades and the people. He resolutely implemented the principle of the 3-in-1 combination of old, middle-aged, and young cadres, and ardently supported the new forces and new things that emerged during the great proletarian cultural revolution. We should learn from his fine style, being modest and prudent, unassuming and approachable, setting an example by his conduct, and living in a plain and hard-working way. We should follow his example of adhering to the proletarian style of life and opposing the bourgeois style of life. We should learn from his revolutionary tenacity in fighting illness. While he was ill, he constantly studied and implemented Chairman Mao's principles and policies, and kept on studying works by Marx, Engels, Lenin, and Stalin, and by Chairman Mao. Even when his condition became very grave, he attentively listened to several readings of the 2 brilliant poems of Chairman Mao published on New Year's Day. Such was his indomitable revolutionary spirit. Comrade Zhou Enlai, a great revolutionary fighter of the Chinese people, has left us forever. We should turn our grief into strength. Under the leadership of the Party Central Committee, headed by Chairman Mao, we should unite as one, take class struggle as the key link, conscientiously study the theory of the dictatorship of the proletariat, keep to the party's basic line, persevere in continuing the revolution under the dictatorship of the proletariat, adhere to Chairman Mao's revolutionary line and policies in foreign affairs, consolidate and develop the victories of the great proletarian cultural revolution, consolidate the dictatorship of the proletariat, combat and prevent revisionism, and strive to build China into a powerful, modern, socialist country and carry the cause of communism to victory. Unite to win still greater victories. Party and state leaders expressed deep condolences to Comrade Deng Xiaoping. Comrades at the memorial meeting pay their last respects to the memory of Comrade Zhou Enlai. During this time of deep mourning, the entire party, army, and nation review with profound admiration and respect the Premier's glorious life of struggle for the cause of communism. From his youth, Comrade Zhou Enlai devoted his whole being to the liberation of the Chinese people. During the May 4th movement of 1919, he threw himself into revolutionary activities against imperialism and feudalism. From 1920 to 1924, he was in France and Germany under a work-study program and spread Marxism among Chinese students and workers in Europe. During the First Revolutionary Civil War, 1924 to 1927, he served successively as chairman of the Guangdong-Guangxi Regional Committee of the party, director of the political department of the Huanghua Military Academy, and in other posts. He took part in the Northern Expedition against the reactionary rule of the warlords and made important contributions to their overthrow. In 1927, Comrade Zhou Enlai was the principal leader in the Shanghai Workers' Armed Uprising. That same year, Chiang Kai-shek betrayed the revolution. Comrade Zhou Enlai, together with other comrades, led the August 1st Nanchang Uprising to save the revolution. During the Second Revolutionary Civil War, 1927 to 1937, Comrade Zhou Enlai was secretary of the Central Bureau of the Central Soviet Area, political commissar of the First Front Army of the Chinese Workers' and Peasants' Red Army, and also held other posts. After the Zunyi Conference of 1935, he continued as vice chairman of the Revolutionary Military Commission of the Party Central Committee under Chairman Mao's leadership. He took part in the organization and leadership of the 12,500-kilometer long march of the Red Army, which fought its way to victory, overcoming innumerable dangers and hardships before reaching northern Shenxi in 1935. During the Xi'an incident in 1936, Comrade Zhou Enlai was sent by Chairman Mao as the party's representative with full powers to negotiate with Chiang Kai-shek, then under arrest. Chiang Kai-shek was compelled to stop the civil war and agree to a peaceful settlement of the Xi'an incident. This led to the formation and growth of the National United Front against Japanese aggression. Comrade Zhou Enlai, delivering an important speech at the 7th National Congress of the Chinese Communist Party in 1945. During the War of Resistance against Japan, 1937 to 1945, Comrade Zhou Enlai was stationed in Chongqing, then the seat of the Kuomintang government. He firmly adhered to Chairman Mao's policies and fought heroically against the counter-revolutionary policy of the Kuomintang. Throughout the Third Revolutionary Civil War, 1945 to 1949, Comrade Zhou Enlai, under Chairman Mao's leadership, waged a face-to-face struggle against the U.S. Jiang reactionaries. When Chiang Kai-shek's troops launched massive attacks on the Shenxi-Gansu-Ningxia border region, Comrade Zhou Enlai remained in northern Shenxi with Chairman Mao and assisted him in directing the Great People's Liberation War. Under Chairman Mao's leadership, Comrade Zhou Enlai made indelible contributions to the development of the Revolutionary United Front, to the consolidation of the great unity of the people of all nationalities in China, and to the victorious liberation of the Chinese people. Then came the new historical period of socialist revolution and proletarian dictatorship in China. From the founding of the People's Republic of China and throughout the 26 years until his death, Comrade Zhou Enlai was our premier. Over a long period, he was concurrently Minister of Foreign Affairs. He was also Vice Chairman of the Military Commission under the Party Central Committee, Vice Chairman of the First National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, and Chairman of its Second, Third, and Fourth National Committees. Beloved Premier Zhou, you were always with the people. Your heart beat as one with those of millions of workers, peasants, and soldiers. Premier Zhou showed the warmest concern for the growth of school graduates who had settled in the countryside. He ardently supported the new things emerging under socialism and the new forces appearing in the revolution. Premier Zhou constantly went to factories, villages, army units, and construction sites to inquire into the study, work, and living conditions of the masses. He went through thick and thin with the people, sharing their joys and sorrows. He upheld Chairman Mao's revolutionary line to guide the people from victory to victory. Faithfully implementing the party's policy on nationalities, Premier Zhou showed the greatest concern for the revolution and construction in the national minority areas. The Premier's heart and the hearts of all China's nationalities beat in unison. He joins the people in Yunnan province in their water sprinkling festival. Our respected Premier was an eminent and tested leader of the party and state. Yet he remained one of the working masses. A great man as he was unassuming and mixed freely with the people. Wherever there were difficulties and dangers, wherever the people needed the party most, our Premier was there. The day after the major earthquake at Xingtai, Hebei province in 1966, he was there with the people. Our Premier resolutely implemented Chairman Mao's revolutionary line in foreign affairs and upheld proletarian internationalism. He made outstanding contributions to the progress of mankind and won the respect and admiration of the people of the world. Resolutely carrying out Chairman Mao's policy in an acute struggle against the Soviet revisionist renegade clique at the Soviet Communist Party's 22nd Congress in 1961, he safeguarded the great truth of Marxism-Leninism and defended Chairman Mao. He returned in triumph and was met at the airport by the great leader, Chairman Mao. During the great proletarian cultural revolution, he persevered in Chairman Mao's revolutionary line and made immortal achievements. Together with the people, he sings, "Sailing the seas depends on the helmsman." Comrade Zhou Enlai at the second plenary session of the party's 9th Central Committee in 1970. Comrade Zhou Enlai was elected the party's vice chairman at the first plenary session of the 8th Central Committee of the party in 1956, and again at the first plenary session of the 10th Central Committee in 1973, delivering the political report to the 10th National Congress of the party in 1973. Our respected Premier Zhou speaks at the 4th National People's Congress in 1975. Following Chairman Mao's directive, he calls on us to build China into a modern, powerful socialist state before the end of the century.
在毛主席为首的党中央领导下，我国人民奋发图强，克服种种艰难险阻，使用了20多年的时间，就把一个贫穷落后的国家变成初步繁荣昌盛的社会主义国家。我们再用20多年的时间，一定能够在本世纪内把我国建设成为社会主义的现代强国。
The communist ideal to which Comrade Zhou Enlai dedicated his whole life will be realized. always remember him with love and respect. The illustrious name of Zhou Enlai will always be revered in China. The bountiful fruits of socialist revolution and construction will be his memorial. Comrade Zhou Enlai